how's it going, guys? It's Monday, and we're actually live on a Monday. Who would have thought? Modern Men's Back, episode 72. We're going to be talking about, at least in my opinion, I think you'll agree, Andy, the hottest book on the planet right now. Something is killing the children, and I want to talk about, why are people going so crazy over this book? We'll go in more depth than that in a second, but I do have to say hi to my co-host officially, and oh my God, the beard is like tripled in fluff somehow over this little absence we've had on Modern Men. But Andy, how's the beard?
Boy, this beard, I tell you what, it's almost like you could hide monsters in it. That stuff that would kill children would just come flying right out of it,
Something is growing the beards. But anyway,
yes.
I'm Carson. Drew is off building teams and exercising or something like that. But nonetheless, Drew is stuck at work, so he will not be joining us tonight. But I know he loves Something is Killing the Children, I'm sure. And he'll tell you all about it and then talk about X-Men for an hour after that. There you go, Drew. You're welcome. Well, I got to say hi to Comic Core super fan Chris Barrett. How you doing, man? He's talking about X. He's still thinking about those Deadpool cards. People still collecting those Deadpool cards, Andy.
Yeah, apparently they're sending them into CGC now to get graded. I've seen people on social media sending those things in. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Oh, well, to each his own. Collect your... That's not our catchphrase. I love those two brothers, though. Those guys are great. But anyway, Andy, but since it's just the two of us, we may as well add another topic in here. And I just wanted to get, what are you reading lately? What are you collecting? Are you going after any runs? Are you going after just trades? You're reading digitally? What are you doing in the world of comics right now, Andy?
I've really pulled the reins back big time and taken a major break. My work schedule has been 7 days a week. It's been nonstop. So the content on my channel has slowed down a fair bit as well and shortened up a little bit. So I'm reading more digitally than ever before. And I prefer paper issues, but yeah, digital means kind of has that availability, just the convenience factor. So, and because of that, like, I'm still wholeheartedly deep into New Comic Book Day every week so I can get the single issues and read and keep up with the stories issue to issue that I really like. But when it comes to back issue stuff, digital's the way to go. I haven't been dropping, coin on trade paperbacks, because if I did that, I'd be buying 5 or 6 trade paperbacks a week or every other week to catch all the stuff I want to read. So Hoopla and Comixology have still been fantastic. And in fact, speaking of Comixology, Something's Killing Children, the first trade you can borrow for free on Comixology Unlimited right now.
Yeah, that's how I read it too. I was actually wanting to read the second one. I was telling you before we went on the air here that I was planning on reading both trades so we could talk about all of that. And then apparently my library card expired. I didn't know library cards expired. So yeah, I haven't read the second trade yet because I didn't want to cough up the 10 or 15 bucks to Comixology. So yeah, I still need to do that. Do want to say hi to William Bird. How's it going, man? Yeah, we're back. Not week to week. I don't think any of us have that type of schedule right now, but definitely at least want to make time for Something is Killing the Children. It's something I wanted to read for a minute. Chris Barrett says, Rob Van Dam is selling some of his stuff, including Deadpool art. Oh, that's interesting. I'm kind of the same way, Andy. Like I haven't been feeling a lot of the weekly pulls lately. The only actual weekly pull I got this last week, and I still haven't read it yet because I literally just went today, was Ice Cream Man. It's just a cool cover on issue 24. Well, they're all cool covers on Ice Cream Man. This book, probably my favorite Image title going right now. But yeah, that's literally the only thing I left the comic shop with that was normal. But when they're selling back issue $1 Bronze Age to celebrate the return of his old Comic Day, that's the stuff I've been like picking up and collecting lately. Is just, and as you can see, I picked up the whole stack of Amazing Spider-Man and just bought it so there's some doubles in there. But I have had a blast just trying to collect stuff like this as cheap as I can get it. Like I got a 12-cent Daredevil for $1 today, even though I think I already have this issue. I went ahead and bought it again. So yeah, it's been trying to fill some of these older runs I've been going for. Like especially Daredevil, even though, like I said, they're readers, but they're still awesome for a buck. Doctor Strange, I don't go after these two often, but if I see him for a buck, I'm definitely not going to leave him there. And the art on the inside is beautiful. You get Frank Bruner, you get Jim Starlin, among a lot of other awesome artists there. But yeah, and of course, I'm still trying to go after them Ninja Turtles, even though it hurts my wallet bad.
Yeah.
And it hurts my mailbox bad for whatever reason. Instead of just laying them down on my porch, not bending them. And when they ship them, you just put a little sliver of cardboard in there and write fragile on it. Nope, nah, they don't. No one knows how to do that. But anyway, a lot of fun collecting. But enough hot dogging and grandstanding. Let's get into this book right here. Something is Killing the Children. And this is the first issue, got signed by Jenny Frison. I'll just leave that there. So, Andy, what is your first experience with Something is Killing the Children? What made you, because you said you've been reading this since it came out, what made you want to buy that week 1 issue and keep up with it ever since?
So back in the day, and still to this day, I'm a member of the Simpleman's Comics Patreon group, and they have a private Discord where we hang out and we chat and we talk about, what's coming out in previews. We talk about what's coming out ahead of time, months in advance, what we're looking for, what we're excited about. And Brian and Jack on the channel at that time had mentioned that this was a really good read and they really enjoyed it and we should keep our eyes peeled. So I walked into the shop and said, hey, add it to my pull list. All covers, all copies, all printings. I'm interested in collecting it. It sounds like a really good read. I read the premise of it in previews. And then at that point, when it first started coming out, I kind of realized this isn't going to be no slouch. This is going to be a really good story.
Yeah, for me, the reason I bought that first issue back there, well, number one, like I just happened to stumble across the Jenny Frison cover, and I think, pretty much anyone watching this, the YouTube comic community, they all love the Frizz. Jenny Frison, definitely one of the most talented artists out there. I've always been a fan of her work for a while. And, James Tynion, awesome writer in my opinion. I've really enjoyed his work since he's done the backups for the Scott Snyder Batman stuff and the New 52. And then you finally kind of got to see him come into his own later in the Batman run. And I think he did Batman Eternal quite a bit back in the day. It's only been I guess it's been 7 years since that came out. That's crazy to think about.
Back in the day.
Yeah. But, for the most part, I've been pretty much a fan of all the Tynion stuff I've read. So I'm just like, James Tynion #1 issue, Jenny Frison cover. Yeah, I'll try it out. And kind of the way I collect anymore is if I like a first issue of something, I'm just going to keep that first issue like I have Something is Killing the Children. When they do that, really cool deluxe hardcover, absolute omnibus super edition, that's what I'm going to buy and collect on Something is Killing the Children, just because stories like this, I just really like to sit down and read digitally or in a hardcover all in one sitting rather than read it monthly. Even though on this one, they do have really good cliffhangers in between the issues. So I could imagine reading this monthly and reading this in a binge is quite the experience. So that's going to be my next question to you, Andy. How do you prefer to read this? Because you actually have now had both ways of reading it. Do you think it read better as a monthly title or read better as one sitting per volume?
I think it read better as a monthly title for me with the aspect of the cliffhangers, but you really do get immersed more into the world by reading it in trade. I noticed that today.
Yeah, I agree with that for the most part. Like I said, I didn't really get a whole bunch. I have issue 3 for some reason. I missed issue 2. So I literally have no idea why I have that other issue. But yeah, I mean, I could see just based on the cliffhangers and all that stuff, this would be a really fun monthly read. And I think that's something a lot of independent titles kind of lack, is that they want to read in trade form rather than a good single issue. Yeah. And this one I think read good as both. So it met that sweet spot in the middle there where it makes all of the readers happy. So we got Rob Worst, not near man. How's it going, man? He's in the chat today. He says, I missed the boat on the first print of Something is Killing the Children. Just read the trade. It's good, but I don't think any individual issue is worth $100, let alone $900. Yeah, I was kind of just doing a little research before the show started, just looking at the value. We're going to talk about the story first, but Andy, we will talk about the value of this book and how insane things have gotten. So stay tuned for more thoughts on the $900 sales of this book. But yeah, speaking of that, let's go ahead and get into the story here. So, it's take children's murder mystery plots and just turn up the volume quite a bit on this. So it kind of starts off with you're in a small town and all of a sudden a lot of children have gone missing. Thus the extremely simple and quirky title, Something is Killing the Children. It's the hook, line, and sinker you need right there to get people really into this book, in my opinion. So what I like immediately the most about the story is once you figure out, the kids are obviously getting killed and disappeared, you really get to see the parents, the high school principal, the reaction of the rest of the town, and it's just it's literally draining the life out of the town. And on top of this, enter this crazy character, Erica Slaughter, who you don't really know too much about her origin at this point. Actually, I think they're getting ready to release that issue soon, from what I'm to understand. And she just kind of is just like, it kind of reminds me of Twin Peaks a little bit, where Laura Palmer gets murdered, and you have all these like weird, quirky characters intertwined into the storyline. And all of a sudden, here comes Kyle MacLachlan's character, Agent Dale Cooper, and he's just all chipper and happy, and he's ready to get to the bottom of this. And everyone's just like, what is wrong with this guy? Even though Erica Slaughter, Dale Cooper, two completely different characters, but they're still a puzzle piece. This bigger puzzle doesn't quite fit in, but somehow does anyway. So, Andy, what did you think of how the story opened up?
Well, I mean, let's go even beyond the story and look at the way they deliver this world. When you first open the pages, there's this gritty blackness, like subtle beyond of noise, where the first 2 pages are supposed to be black, but they're not pitch black. It's not just straight black. It's like this noise, like almost if you're having a really, really bad dream and you're in the dark, but you can hear something out there. It's like they're setting a tone of fear at the beginning. Even looking at the font that they use for Something is Killing the Children, looks panicked, looks rushed, it looks fearful. So honestly, when you first open the book, before you can get into the story, you're kind of like, wait, what are we getting into here? And that opens up to that double page spread with the woods where the credits are in there, and they go into a truth or dare. How many people have sat there and done truth or dare? I'm like, this is boring. Well, this is literally, this truth or dare moment that they're having here is literally the birth of the antagonist of our story, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
This is it. This is the birth. When you've read the story a couple times, or at least once, and gone back, and you realize this is the birth of that moment. This truth or dare moment where he gets his friends to believe in this monster is what gives it reality, or more so. So it's just a very interesting concept on the way this works. I didn't at first think I was going to like the art, but the art actually builds the world around me and actually wraps me around and kind of sucks me in. If you look, the first few pages, the panels don't really have like solid borders. They just erode into darkness, kind of. Like the colors stop. Your mind thinks that there's borders there, but if you look at it, there's no real borders there. So the panels blend right into darkness. It's just the way they deliver the story. And then you go in the next couple of pages, and there's the kid being interrogated by the officer. And then there's hard borders, hard lines, brightness. This is a very masterful crafting of a story. Tynion just kills it in this first issue, in my opinion. It's hard to deny how good of a story this is. It really is.
Yeah, I agree. Like it does everything you would want a first issue to do. It really like captures the world, like you said, through that art, and it exhibits that darkness, because the whole thing with the darkness is the parents, the adults of the town, like I said, it's literally draining the life out of the town not having the kids there, when parents are losing their only kids, when the principal, which is probably my favorite part of that first issue, and he's talking to our other main character. I believe his name was James, which I'm pretty sure is supposed to be a type star for James Tynan. He even had the same haircut. But anyway, you can just see like the principal, he is a guy with nothing to lose anymore. He's even swearing in front of the kids because in his head it doesn't matter anymore. Like, he's pretty much already failed the town, and he's just ready to move on so something else. But you don't even really see him again, so he's just an example of how the parents, the adults, are handling the loss of the children. But you get to meet some of the other characters. There's this other character who works at Applebee's because of rights. And you get to follow him around for a little bit. He's kind of like your sane person, be like, all right, there's this lady, Erica. She seems to be the only person who has any idea what's going on. She's probably killing the children, which obviously we know she's not, but you at least always got to have that one character that suspects the main character who's the only one with any information. So what did you think of like the other two main characters besides Erica? Do you like them, or you just feel like they're kind of there?
They're more than just kind of there. The way he introduces them, because you got to think about this. You're coming off of a shock of being introduced to Erica Slaughter, like covered in blood, walking out of the woods, carrying two monster-killing knives. That's kind of an actual like upfront shock at first. So then every character introduction after that seems a little underhanded, maybe, or a little bit quieter of a play. So it's kind of subtle in the way he introduces the next few characters. I'm not upset by any means. It's interesting that how because I'm read up till issue 15, so it's kind of interesting how these characters play out. But the way they introduce them is actually no, that one character they introduced at the very beginning. My bad.
James.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you see James in that Truth or Dare game, and basically what happens to him is the overlaying story that all the parents, the adults, are hearing about, that he was the only survivor of the something's attack, basically. And
that's like the only time you see him as normal too.
Sure. Yeah, after that he's done for.
After that, he is just a ball of effed up from there on forward going. That's the only normalcy you kind of get with him, which is very crazy.
So Rob Worth says belief into intangibles is the structure Tynan frames his stories. And that's kind of through the James's character in this book as well. Like, you kind of see, like you said, he's normal when you see him at first because he's just a normal kid. But then all this insanity starts to happen around him. He loses every one of his friends to a monster only children can see somehow, and people who get stabbed in heads with special knives. So, yeah, definitely agree with that, Rob, for sure. So, yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the story a little bit. So, like I said, Erica Slaughter, they're all suspecting she's in on this somehow and knows what's going on more than she's leading on. And of course, Mr. Applebee's manager calls the police on her. She gets hauled off. But one of my favorite panels is when the police show up at her hotel room, knock on the door, and she's talking to some sort of plushy squid. It looks like she made it herself. And it has some sort of spirit coming out of it. And like apparently it exudes some sort of awful smell anytime these somethings are cast. So what did you think of that scene, Andy?
I really enjoyed that. It was really intriguing, and that's why I'm really excited for the series to come back with Slaughter's origin, because we're going to get the origin for that character, because that's a character as well. It's not just a sidekick. It's not really just a toy or anything like that. If I remember correctly, it has something to do with like the first monster that these monster hunters cope with or deal with. Then they live in a vessel and stay with them, and they can almost use them like not a voodoo doll, but like a trinket or a charm for their monster hunting adventures. And we're on the precipice of getting the origin of not only Erica Slaughter, but of that character as well, too. So it's invisible to everybody except Erica Slaughter and children. And you get that very awesome, epic panel to see what kind of monster it was that she was either potentially fighting, or it was fighting her, or she's got a lot of deep ties to this.
Yeah, first when I saw that panel, I was wondering, like, is this really a monster? Because I had like even its own font, a different font, and I was just like, is she insane? Is she just imagining this monster coming out of this plush? And then I didn't realize it was officially its own thing until two instances. One where you see that vision that the one guy has where he has to take the knife to his temple to be able to see the monsters, and you see this like Illuminati of monster hunters, and they each have their own little homemade plushie, which I thought was hilarious. And then the little squid starts talking to James and asking James, you need to go in there. You're the only person who can stop this. And then he just, we'll get into that here in a second. I do want to say special shout out to Chad R. What is going on, Chad? He killed it this weekend, helping out on Mid-May Massacre. Him, Kat Wren, getting to talk to Jason Voorhees himself, Kane Hodder. Absolutely awesome stuff. They also did the Friday pre-show, which in my opinion was the actual show. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you guys get a chance. But yeah, the biggest culmination of this is, well, number one, before they even go fight the something, another one of my favorite instances, remind me of Phantasm 2, when Reggie and Mike have to go. They know they're going to go fight the tall man, so they break into this hardware store and they just start buying up like all the goofy weapons and stuff. And there's pretty much a scene just like that in here where Erica basically goes to Lowe's with a shopping cart, and you actually get to see her ask the clerk for chainsaws. And she's like, yeah, those are some really nice chainsaws and all, but we're the ones that'll just cut through anything and get me out of any jam. He's just like, I don't really understand your question. And really, we always love those scenes. I think there was also one of those in Commando, if I remember right, where Arnold has to break in somewhere and he ends up getting a rocket launcher, and then like the girl has to help use the rocket launcher and she fires it backwards. And always classics when you see those. So, well, what did you think of Erica at the hardware store?
It's classic kind of monster prep montage going on here with the clerk, like, ma'am, like he's really confused. She wants the nitty gritty. She wants the balls to the walls. She wants the equipment that isn't shiny and isn't pretty. She wants the body slaying, body dropping equipment that's never going to give up. And then she's like, and cordless. I need cordless. That was one of my favorite lines. She nonchalantly says it's got to be cordless. And the fact that the artist chose this Black & Decker looking straight up right out of Home Depot cordless hedge trimming like mini chainsaw blows my mind, because it is the least lethal looking weapon I could think of in a hardware store. It's very mundane, very dad vibes kind of yard working, and they turned it into this murder massacre chainsaw for monster hunting, and it's actually kind of dope.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I forgot. Rob Worst did ask one question. Maybe you have a better bearing on this one than I do right now, Andy. He asks, so can Department of Truth and Something is Killing the Children overlap in the same universe? Now, I've only read one issue of Department of Truth, and I really enjoyed that one so far. But is there enough there so far to have two universes potentially be one?
I mean, the potential is there. The trouble therein lies with Department of Truth being an Image title and Something's Killing Children being a Boom title, and how they would make that work. But that would be pretty epic. I think that's kind of where Department of Truth is leading a little bit, where they make it a little more X-Files-y and make it a little more down and dirty with the government agents and the government behind the work, so to speak, whereas Something's Killing Children is a straight up monster hunting story. But you see how he's creating this, like Rob was saying, or somebody else was saying in the chat, the truth through, what was the phrase he was using, where that somebody speaks it, if they speak it enough, belief into tangibles is structure tiny frames of story. So you can see very similar storytelling styles here that kind of have the same root system, so to speak. Yet they're two very different stories. Yet they're similar enough that they could live in the same universe, just like you're saying, and that would actually be pretty epic. Dude, they need to do a Department of Truth story arc where it's a monster hunting run like this. That would be pretty epic.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Chad says he read it today. He said it had a hack slash vibe. Yeah, Tim Seeley, another, obviously a big friend of Jenny Frizen there. Patrick Wall, what's going on, man? Nice to see you in the chat. He says, so when they cast Alexa Bliss from WWE as Erica, will the books go up or down?
Oh, I would imagine those go up in all seriousness.
Yeah, they're going to go up no matter what.
The trouble with this stuff, we can get into the whole speculation conversation because there's a lot to talk about, but after the story, we can do that.
Sure. But yeah, I will say Alexa Bliss, I think she's surprisingly talented as an actress. So the weird crap they have her doing now, I think just really makes her talent she didn't get a chance to show before really shine. So for sure. And Chad says it's cool Netflix picked it up. Fun seeing something other than Caps. All right, so the issue 5. So everything they've been doing was really just building up to issue 5. You get to see, our main characters converge and confront this monster. And of course, probably my only criticism here of this entire book is I almost just wanted to see more of this fight. I feel like it was just mostly done in the background, or you get to see, James getting shot and then rescued by the guy who shot him. And then all of a sudden there's this little girl, I think her name was Rianne or something like that. I'm guessing the whole second arc will be about her. But yeah, she's just randomly there and not dead. So she gets saved. And then by the time all of this is over, there's like this mysterious benefactor that's been helping Erica in the background, which we don't know anything about him at all at this point, except he can make a couple phone calls. He knows a lot of personal information, like people's personal cells and that stuff. And he knows how to get Erica out of a jam, basically. He just doesn't know how to do it in a timely manner, unfortunately. So you get the culmination here of Erica. She basically kills the something, but she figures out the something was a mommy, and that mommy had kids, and now she's got to find their kids, and something's going to kill their kids, aka Erica. So what did you think about issue 5, Andy?
Issue 5 delivers a lot of new information for the reader that can be, I don't want to use the term rewarding, but it definitely progresses the story heavily, right? You get Bane, not Bane, Bian. I don't know how to pronounce that name.
I just said Bian. I'm not sure.
Bian. She's been buried in the bodies for a long, long time hiding, and her sister's been killed. And we find out that we're beginning to find out that this monster isn't just a standard monster. It's a mother, and it's been stashing bodies and stashing food for its children, which have been birthed and are out hunting and learning. So the story has gone from holy sheet to, oh my God, holy sheet, here we go. It just starts growing and encompassing. This is issue 5 is kind of where things start to expand. Mm-hmm. And that's where reading this issue to issue is, it has that cliffhanger element and leaves you wanting more. And you're like, why are we stopping now? You get a little, I almost get a little upset. It's like, why am I stopping? I got to read the next issue and I got to wait a month. But it's one of those titles where 9:55, I'm at the door waiting for the shop to open. Let's go.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I completely get that too. Like I said, I definitely wanted to read volume 2 as soon as I saw that stinger at the end. It was like, it was a mother. We've got to get everybody else now. But overall, I really enjoyed this read. Like, there were a couple lull spots for me here and there, but they were few and far between. I think 5 issues was the perfect length for the first volume. Some people want 6 issues in a trade. I enjoyed that there were 5. There really wasn't too much wasted motion here.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Erica Slaughter. I think she's definitely going to be a big character to watch down the line. I think, we'll get into that here in a second, but she definitely reminded me of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer mixed with a little bit more crazy. So it was like, take the character Faith from that show and cram those two characters together and add like a demon plushy squid for some reason, and you get Erica Slaughter. So I really did enjoy that. So
yeah, it does really feel like a revamped Buffy, and then remove the vampires and open it up to crazy monsters that nobody can really see.
I just want to know who her watcher is. That's the next question. Who's this guy on the phone with the dragon symbols and stuff? So
we gotta get into the next trade, man.
Yeah, that'll be fun to follow up on for sure. So Andy, what do you score this one?
I score this one for me a 9.8. This one is a 9.8 Blue Label, not completely perfect, not without a couple of minor flaws, which 9.8s are allowed, and this just continues to deliver even after. So I guess I'm being a little biased here. At a 9.8, I'm not really judging in the first trade. The first trade, I would give it a 9.4. It's a solid near mint. It's a solid 9.4. Just the first trade alone is going to be a 9.4, because then when you delve into the next trade paperback and the other issues and you start digging deeper, it builds and just continues to build momentum and get better and better. People aren't wrong when they say this can potentially be the next Walking Dead. As far as hype, as far as great story, as far as longevity, this has got legs. This has definitely got legs.
Yeah, I agree 100% on the score. I was going to go 9.4 as well. I may gold label that one. Give it a 9.4 gold label. Like I said, I had a couple dead spots for me around issue 2 and 3. But those, I mean, they're minuscule. I can get over that. Sometimes just, I think that formatting of like, I almost call it like the Brian Bendis formatting, where you have like a 2-page spread, but then everything's like in a little box so we can get through a bunch of dialogue in 2 pages. Sometimes I really dig that. Sometimes I don't. Didn't mind it too much here, but then they did it like 3 times in a row. But yeah, minor nitpick right there. Very minor nitpick. But other than that, excellent story, great character. I don't know if, James Tynion, I don't know. I'd like to ask him where he came up with this character. I'm very curious, because I think this character is going to have legs for years to come, like you've said. So now we've reviewed the story, let's talk a little bit about why are people going so crazy after this book. And I think the main reason, besides obviously, like Chad said, Netflix picked this thing up, apparently, does speculation every time something gets optioned, TV movie. That's the easiest answer, obviously. But I think Erica Slaughter's character it's a strong one. It's been a while since there's just been this fun of a character introduced. So I think that's going to have a ton to do with it. The fact that issue 1 is obviously her first appearance. What do you think, Andy? You think it's the story, the character, something else completely different?
I think it's a good mix of a lot of things. I mean, you can take the Netflix option and actually backseat that, and I'll explain that in a moment. You got a very strong female lead who's a badass character and a really kind of Twin Peaks environment that kind of spices up that environment. And you've got masterful storytelling where this read actually brings you into the story. It's kind of very, the phrase I'm looking for, it's very immersive. It's in a very immersive story where you get into it and you're like, yeah, I don't know. And the next thing you know, 6 pages later, you feel like you're kind of sucked into this and you're really with the characters. It's the storytelling style, the way the verbiage is, way the words are even being used helps pull you in. So it's a strong female lead, an excellently written story, amazing art that finishes wrapping you into that. And then when you talk about like the Netflix optioning is cool and it adds a little bit of heat, but let's get real here. Netflix isn't going to do anything with this until they finish what's their faces with the kids on
Stranger Things.
Nothing's happening with Something's Killing Children until they're done with Stranger Things. Why are you going to have multiple monster stories with children on at the same time producing? It's just not going to be a thing. The whole Netflix optioning, like Boom Studios, is a chess match play. Right? Like there's still no guarantee Something is Killing the Children is ever going to make it to the screen. There's no guarantee at all. Netflix has simply made a power play to say that if it does come to the screen, it's going to be us, which is cool. And Netflix is one of the top 3 or 4 trusted, Amazon, Netflix, HBO, a couple of other areas, Disney Plus, where if they're pulling in a story and they're going to do it, they tend to do it right, But until they finish Stranger Things, this kind of doesn't have a place on Netflix. So that really adds some weight to the whole where this title is going, the prices that they are garnering, where this book is moving and how it's moving is basically fan driven right now. Sure, it's got option news, but when you look at option news of speculation titles, you see fluctuation over time. You can see the rise after news, and then after a while you can see it dip back down when nothing's happening, because obviously there's no casting, there's no production, there's nothing happening just yet until they decide to use it. When they decide to use it and they do casting, they start working on producing the series or the movie, then things trend back up. Then it drops back down again until you see the first trailer or the first news of a show. You get these ebbs and flows. There have been no ebbs and flows with Something's Killing the Children. The valleys where titles typically drop aren't dropping. It's all fan driven. It's all fan, not speculation. It's fan excitement. This has been a solid female lead who's very intriguing, in an industry where amazing, badass female leads, we're short on those. I mean, think Dr. Aphra, think this right here. That's why people are really excited about these characters. You know what I mean? They're going to do really well on screen when they get there. But I think it's going to be a long time before Something Killing the Children is seen on screen, because if Netflix is going to continue to own it, if they don't sell it off, they're not going to let this steamroll the other show, which I continue to forget the name because it's been so long. Speaking of which, we've got 2 months before the next season comes out, every July, right?
I don't even know if it's coming out this year. Like with the whole coronavirus, that throws any schedule, anything.
Exactly. So that's another intriguing aspect where so many things are pushed back and delayed due to that. And it's delayed other things, which potentially delays options for something like this that's not even on the cutting room floor. It's not even on the imaginary floor yet for a studio or for Netflix or anybody like that. So for this title to gain that momentum and keep it really adds a lot of the weight to the fact that people are calling it the next Walking Dead.
Yeah, I was going to say the closest thing I would probably think to compare this whole situation to is Y the Last Man #1.
Ooh.
Because that story, when that came out, obviously it had a pretty big impact to readers, like Something is Killing the Children had just now. But with that, I mean, people were speculating on speculation, basically, where they're just like, all right, this is going to have to be a property. This is going to be option. This is going to be a big movie or an HBO series. And then like 15 years passed and nothing, until allegedly at the end of this year, we're finally going to get an FX series on that. And everyone's just like, yep, we've already been collecting that book for 20 years. Thanks, guys. So that's why I don't know if this is going to turn into a similar situation where people feel so strongly about these first couple volumes that they're just guaranteeing that it's going to be something down the line, even though Netflix is like, yep, that's ours. But like you said, that there's nothing else besides that yet.
That's kind of how this works, right? You get something like Netflix or Disney Plus or HBO Max or one of those big studios. They buy up titles like a chess player uses portions of the board, right? It's a strategic advantage you're taking away from your opponent. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right move in the moment, but in the big picture, it might pay off, right? That's exactly what they're doing. When all of these companies, they pick up titles, they not speculate, but the term I'm looking for, we were just using. When they pick them up to own them or purchase the rights to them, it's not always necessarily because they're going to make them into a show or a movie. It's just because they're preventing their competitors from getting to it.
Sure.
It's like, if you own a taxi cab business and you go and buy up all of the cheap taxi cabs in the area to keep your competitors from owning any of them, you're preventing your competitors from having any extra opportunities to grow. It's the power play move. So, but this doesn't feel like this may have been a power play move at the beginning, but it's so well fan driven that they're going to have to answer this no matter what at some point. It isn't just people flipping the book and driving prices up. It's well beyond that. There's a huge fan base beyond this. There were people cosplaying Erica Slaughter from the beginning, from the very beginning, Girls were falling in love with that. And I absolutely love, was it Chris Barrett said Alexa Bliss for Erica Slaughter? He is dead nuts on the money. She would do a fantastic, if she has the acting chops, she looks the part.
Oh, yeah. Chad says that's why he takes Uber, by the way. He's also talking about Mark Millar making mention of why this book is spiked. So if Mark Millar mentioned it at the point, and like Chad says, he does have a lot of sway with Netflix right now since that Millar World deal went down.
Even though the Millar stuff has been continuing to die out, though.
Yeah, even though Jupiter's Legacy just launched, which people seem to enjoy, but yeah, exactly. That seems to be what most people think in terms of collecting the book for whatever reason.
And it's a 50-50. Either people like Jupiter's Legacy or most people didn't. Well, a 50-50 is going to be a deal killer for most books. People are hemming and hawing.
The other book I was kind of thinking that had the speculation roller coaster was Chew #1, which that book still holds incredible value, of course. But the whole story on that one was Showtime, I guess, optioned John Layman and Rob Guillory directly, and they actually exchanged money. They gave them money for the rights to Chew, and then never did anything with it. And they're like, okay, we're decided not to go any further. Thank you guys for your cooperation. And I guess they just took the Showtime money to the bank, and that was the end of that.
Yep, that's a power play move.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because I think Chew would be an absolutely fantastic HBO Max series. I really do. I think it kills me because I think Chew would be super dope on HBO Max.
It'd be good as anything. As long as it's I think a good animated version of Chew would be great.
Oh, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. That would be really good too. I was thinking of it in the kind of a cross between like X-Files and Dexter, like bloody, gory, crazy, yet still. Either way.
We got Jeff Schultz in the chat. What's going on, man? And Chris Barrett's talking about chess players and all that good stuff. So my final question to you, Andy, not really anything that has to do with something is killing the children, but what book or series do you think should have a buzz like this, but doesn't at all?
Ooh, that's tough. That's tough because I got to think about that for a moment. There's a lot of good reads going on right now, but there's just not a lot. Ooh, I got you. Descender.
Okay.
Descender, I think it's been out for some time. John's Comics with Kids and White Whale will agree with me on this, that it's a fantastic, fantastic story with fantastic art that could be an absolute just bombshell of a sci-fi series or even a 3-movie mashup. Bub's Comics is not wrong either. Kanto. Chad, Magic Order was a really good read that would make an excellent show on Netflix as well.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I think Descender, because I'm a huge sci-fi fan and space opera fan, and I think Descender would really kind of fill that hole in my heart of needing another sci-fi space opera-esque kind of thing where, some people would think that I would jump to Saga, but I really think Descender is doable, whereas I don't feel like Saga is as doable as Descender is. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I don't even know. I can't even fathom how you would make Saga besides it'd have to be super high budget if it wasn't animated, basically. A lot of good picks from the chat. Like you said, Chad was talking about Magic Order, which, that I think that's going to be something eventually with Mark Millar's relationship with, it says Netflix on the back of the freaking book, for God's sake. Make it happen, guys. Come on. Bub's Comics, what's going on, man? He said, I still need to read Kanto. That may have to be future modern men.
Hey, that's not bad. I know you can get Drew and David M. Boer probably on for that show as well.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Rob Worth says, we live in Scout's honor. Chad shouting out the jump. Jeff Schultz says, Scout's honor, 2 Moons, Homesick Pilots make for a great movie TV launch. And Andy, I was kind of throwing a little bait out there. I thought you were going to say Gideon Falls.
You're not wrong. That's why I'm reading so many titles and there's so many things that I'm in love with. I'm trying to get to that epic omnibus on the shelf aspect for those titles that are really locked in as far as my opinion of where I want to see more. And Gideon Falls definitely is up there. Gideon Falls would be a fantastic HBO Max.
Yeah.
or Cinemax, something in the realm where you can get R-rated and you can get nitty and gritty and not worry about the specifics or the details or pandering to that PG-13 audience and just deliver the dark, nitty-gritty horror crazy story. For the love of God, Gideon Falls would be fantastic.
Yeah, and my other pick was going to be The Wicked and the Divine.
Ooh.
I'm surprised like no one talks about that book at all anymore, I feel like. And it's a great concept, beautiful art in that book. And I think there would be potential there for something else to grow that. I'm sure that Kieran Gillen probably has more stories to tell at some point in that universe, but it's a good read if you haven't had a chance to check that out for sure. So let's go ahead and see what's going on in the chat one more time here. Chris Parrish says The Ballad of Al Snow. Shout out to Al Snow. He's got a comic book Kickstarter going for his origin story there. Shout out says Dark Side YouTube, The Great Legend episode 1. Bubs is talking about Penthouse Comics with an X. The spelling of comics. Whew. Andy, I hate it when I type something I didn't Nintendo. There you go. All right, Andy, I think that pretty much wraps up our review and analysis of Something is Killing the Children. So, Andy, what do you got going on your channel?
As much as I can possibly fit into my schedule, it's really tough right now, but I'm doing 10, 15-minute mail call Mondays still. I'm trying to keep that alive because that's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of good vibes there. New Comic Book Day is still going to be on Wednesday for 20, 30 minutes if I can get those new books picked up. Thank you to the boss upstairs, my wife, for filling in and picking up those books when I can't even stop at the store anymore because traffic is a real thing and gone for 12 plus hours trying to get to that. She provides that opportunity so I can sit down and read books for an hour or two before actually going live to talk about them. And then, I want to do a top 50 comics in my collection video. I've been watching that playlist from Alex the Comic Hoarder, and I am really inspired to sit down. And I know I shouldn't write out a whole list and make it really challenging for myself to figure out what goes where, but I think that would be really fun. There is a lot of amazing videos out there with Silver Age stuff and Bronze Age stuff and Golden Age stuff, but I don't see a lot of videos of Modern Age collectors, so that'd be really cool. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the top 50 list. I'm still toiling with putting together my top 50 list, but I'm putting my own branding on it. I'm going to make a top 50 signed books list because a lot of my good stuff's at CGC right now. I don't have it just a show, but I really do want to, and if you dig deep enough on my channel, if I do make this video, which I will at some point, I will link the original top 50 list in that video. So I'm definitely going to make a top 50 list of some sort as well and post it to my channel. But other than that, I'm still doing Tuesday night live streams. I'm taking this Tuesday off. Well, number one, I have to work. And number two, I have a bi-weekly schedule on those right now. So look next Tuesday around 7 p.m. You may catch me also live streaming some Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I've been playing some Mass Effect. Got into the revamped number 1, and thank God it has better gameplay than the original, so you can get through the entire franchise a little bit more seamlessly. So I may live stream some of that on my channel for sure, because I love me some Mass Effect. And then I have it on good authority that Modern Men isn't the only Comic Core show making its big return this week. I think that the Friday Night Roundtable is going to make an appearance 10 p.m. this Friday. So turn on those notifications because you never know who, what, when, or where is going to come back on the Comic Core channel. So we may actually have a full lineup of programming for the first time in a little bit this week. So speaking of full lineup of programming on the Comic Core, you got to check out the Wednesday Greatest Show Ever, hosted or co-hosted by one of the greats. Comics Explain. What's going on, Jason? How you doing, man? Jeff Schultz is saying, doing a top 50 to change it up. Only started collecting last year. Yeah, I mean, that definitely doesn't hurt to at least make a 50 video, and it'll show you where you're at in your collecting. And then maybe a couple years later, you'll go look back on that list. And you're like, that wouldn't be my top 50 now, but I still love that book. So at least definitely get it out there, see what you think. And we would love to see it, I'm pretty sure. I know, Andy, you would watch it.
Absolutely.
We got Hermania, what's going on? Big Herm Collectibles. He says Station. I haven't seen that movie in probably 15 years. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Comics Miss Explained says he's tempted to play through Mass Effect again. Yeah, especially if you got, PS4 or Xbox One or up. The new edition is really awesome, especially if you were thinking about replaying the first one. You probably need to play the Legendary Edition just because it has cleaned up gameplay and graphics for sure. Bub's Comics. I thought Roundtable's canceled by viewer request. All right, on that note, I think we're going to go ahead and sign off of here. So big thanks to everybody for checking out tonight's video. Definitely don't forget to like, subscribe, all those gimmicks. Until next time, we'll catch you later.